The courtroom doors opened and silence followed him in. 22-year-old Tyler Grayson, son of billionaire tech magnate Richard Grayson, walked as though the floor belonged to him. He didn't carry humility. He carried status. A designer jacket, an obsidian watch that shimmered like oil under the fluorescent light, and the cold, rehearsed smirk of someone who had never heard the word no. He didn't look at the bailiff, didn't acknowledge the clerk. His eyes scanned the room the way a CEO inspects an investment, calculating who mattered and who didn't. The man behind the bench, Judge Frank Caprio, had seen every kind of arrogance imaginable, but something in the boy's expression suggested this morning would test even him. Mr. Tyler Grayson, the bailiff announced, charged with reckless driving, intimidation of a law enforcement officer, and property damage. Tyler's response wasn't verbal. It was a scoff. He leaned against the defendant's table, phone still in hand, thumbs scrolling carelessly. When Judge Caprio looked up, his calm eyes met the listless flicker of a spoiled heir who believed the courtroom was beneath him. "Good morning, Mr. Grayson," Caprio began. Tyler didn't look up. "Morning," he said, the word drawn out like a sigh. "Not your honor?" Caprio asked quietly. Tyler smiled thinly. "I didn't really do titles. I think respect is something you earn, not demand." A faint murmur rippled through the gallery. The bailiff shifted, ready for the judge's reaction. But Caprio didn't raise his voice. He simply folded his hands and said, "You're here because of 3 charges. You've been accused of reckless driving, threatening Officer Ruiz, and causing damage to a public signpost after running your vehicle up a curb. How do you plead?" Tyler set his phone down and finally made eye contact. "I plead that this whole thing is a waste of time." The courtroom stiffened. "Excuse me?" Caprio asked. "You heard me," Tyler said smoothly. "This is ridiculous. My dad's company donates half the software your city uses. You work for me, pig." The words landed like a slap across the room. Every whisper, every breath froze. Caprio's pen stopped mid-note. The bailiff's jaw locked. Even Tyler's attorney, a sleek man in a navy suit, closed his eyes briefly, as if silently begging his client to stop talking. Caprio's voice came out steady, quiet, but laced with the kind of weight that could silence thunder. "Mr. Grayson, would you like to repeat that?" Tyler shrugged, unfazed. "What?" "I said the truth. You all get your paychecks because people like my father make this city run. You think anyone in Providence would have decent jobs if it wasn't for him? Come on." Judge Caprio leaned forward slightly, his gaze sharp but controlled. "Mr. Grayson, this courtroom is not a marketplace. Justice cannot be bought, borrowed, or inherited. You are here because of your actions, not your father's reputation." "Yeah," Tyler smirked. "Then maybe you should tell that to every campaign your city begged him to fund." The audacity was stunning. Even his attorney seemed lost for words. Caprio set his glasses down and said evenly, "You may be used to boardrooms where the loudest man wins, but this isn't one of them. Here, truth speaks, not money." Tyler laughed, leaning back in his chair. "Truth? You wouldn't know truth if it showed up on your paycheck stub. My father built systems that make your jobs easier. Every piece of courtroom tech you use has our company's name stamped on it. You think I'm scared of some small-town judge with a wooden hammer?" Caprio didn't move. His calmness was unnerving. "Mr. Grayson, arrogance doesn't make you powerful. It makes you predictable." The room inhaled quietly. Tyler's grin faltered just a fraction. As though he hadn't expected resistance this composed. Caprio continued, voice soft yet edged with authority. "In my courtroom, everyone is equal. The homeless man and the CEO's son face the same law. That's not opinion. That's principle." Tyler rolled his eyes. "Principle doesn't he pay salaries?" Caprio's reply was immediate. "Neither does entitlement." The words hung in the air, quiet, but heavy enough to crush the tension into stillness. For a moment, Tyler looked uncertain, but the expression vanished as quickly as it appeared. He leaned forward, feigning amusement. So what, you're going to give me a lecture about accountability? Find me a couple grand. I can pay that before lunch. Caprio nodded slowly. Then maybe money isn't the lesson you need. That calm tone, too calm, made Tyler uneasy. He tapped his fingers against the table, pretending to look bored. But something about the judge's stillness made his confidence flicker. Caprio turned to the clerk. "Do have Officer Ruiz's statement ready?" "Yes, Your Honor," the clerk replied. "Good," Caprio said, his tone steady. "Before we continue, I want the record to show that Mr. Grayson has openly acknowledged his father's influence and made disparaging remarks to this court and its officers." Tyler interjected quickly. "Oh, please don't make it sound like a scandal. I'm just stating facts." "Facts," Caprio repeated, "without wisdom become arrogance. That's why we're here, to remind you that the law isn't your employee." A few people in the audience nodded subtly. Tyler noticed and straightened, his pride flaring again. "Whatever. Let's just get this over with. I have real things to do." Caprio met his gaze and said quietly, "You will, Mr. Grayson. But first, you'll learn something your father's wealth never taught you. What it feels like when the truth doesn't care who you are." The room was silent. The tension had shifted from outrage to awe. Tyler looked away, pretending indifference, but his jaw tightened ever so slightly. The judge adjusted his robe and said, "Officer Ruiz will testify next. We'll hear how this all began. How a simple traffic stop turned into an attempt to intimidate the law itself." Before the footage rolled, Caprio looked directly at the camera and spoke, his voice calm but commanding. "For those watching, ask yourself this. What happens when privilege meets principle? Stay to the end, because what you're about to hear might just redefine the word justice." Tyler smirked again, but this time it didn't reach his eyes. For the first time, it looked like the courtroom. This quiet, unshakable arena of truth was larger than his ego could fill. And as Caprio gave the signal to play the officer's bodycam footage, the crowd leaned in, sensing the shift. The arrogance of power was about to meet the reality of justice. And in Judge Caprio's court, justice always speaks last. The faint click of a mouse broke the silence. The monitor behind Judge Caprio flickered to life and a grainy steel frame filled the screen. The front of Kemal Avenue Elementary School, its yellow bus parked crookedly near the curb. A sleek silver Lamborghini blocked the lane completely, hazard lights flashing like a taunt. The timestamp read 8:43 a.m. Judge Caprio nodded to Officer Ruiz. "You may begin." The officer, calm but steady, stepped forward. "Your Honor, on Monday morning, I was assigned to school traffic detail outside Kemal Elementary. I observed this vehicle obstructing the bus lane. I approached and requested the driver to move." Caprio leaned slightly forward. "And what happened then, officer?" Ruiz took a measured breath. The driver rolled down the window, laughed, and said, and I quote, "You must be new. You don't write me up. You work for me." Pig. A ripple moved through the gallery. Disbelief, anger, disgust. Tyler slouched lower in his chair, his face tightening, but still carrying that thin, defiant grin. Caprio's voice was even. "Play the footage." The video rolled on screen. The same officer approached the car. The audio crackled. Ruiz's voice. "Good morning, sir. You can't park here. It's a fire and bus lane." Then Tyler's voice, sharp, entitled, unmistakably clear. "Relax, officer. Grab a donut. I'll be gone in a minute." "Ruiz, sir, I'll have to issue a citation if you don't move immediately." Tyler laughed. "You're kidding. Do you know who my father is? You work for him, pig." The laughter echoed faintly through the courtroom speakers. Caprio didn't blink. He waited until the video ended, then said softly, "Stop there." Silence, the kind that crushes noise out of the air itself. Even the sound of pens writing halted. Caprio looked at Tyler. "Is that your voice, Mr. Grayson?" Tyler shifted. "Yeah, that's me. Do you dispute the content of this video?" Tyler shrugged, half smirked. "No, it's not like I meant it literally. It was a joke." He took it too seriously. Caprio's pen tapped against the bench once, slow and deliberate. "Mr. Grayson, threatening a law enforcement officer is not a joke. Neither is disrespecting the badge that protects you. Do you often joke this way?" Tyler leaned forward, irritation bleeding through his composure with people who act like they're above themselves. "Sure." "Above themselves," Caprio repeated. "Officer Ruiz was doing his job and I was grabbing coffee." Tyler snapped. "Nobody was hurt. Nobody died. He made it a big deal." Caprio's calm was surgical. "You blocked a school bus lane. You insulted an officer. You used your father's position to intimidate him. That is not a misunderstanding. That is entitlement." Tyler smirked again, though it looked weaker now. "Entitlement's a word people use when they are jealous." Caprio tilted his head slightly. "Jealous of what, Mr. Grayson?" "Money, cars, arrogance." Tyler chuckled. "Take your pick." The gallery exhaled sharply, half in shock, half in anger. Caprio didn't flinch. "Officer Ruiz, please continue." "Yes, Your Honor," Ruiz said. "When I requested his license, Mr. Grayson refused and told me to write whatever I want. He said my career depended on his father's company. After I issued the ticket, he stepped out of the car and told me I'd be answering to corporate by the end of the week." Caprio turned to the clerk. "Miss Reyes, were there any calls made to the municipal office after this incident?" "Yes, Your Honor," she replied. 3 within 1 hour of the citation, all from Grayson Technologies' executive office line. The last voicemail said, quote, "This matter can be resolved discreetly." The officer was clearly out of line. The audience murmured. Tyler rubbed his jaw. "I didn't tell them to call." Caprio's tone was gentle, but immovable. "No one said you did, but you expected them to, didn't you?" Tyler's silence said enough. Caprio folded his hands. "This court receives calls from frightened mothers, confused elderly drivers, and struggling workers every day. They beg for mercy because a fine might cost them food for the week. Your father's office calls because you blocked a bus lane and insulted a man doing his duty. That isn't mercy, Mr. Grayson. That's manipulation." Tyler's attorney finally stood. "Your Honor, my client regrets his tone, but he's young. This isn't a criminal act. It's a misunderstanding fueled by frustration." Caprio didn't look at the lawyer. "Counselor, frustration doesn't justify disrespect. I've seen veterans cry on the stand for less arrogance than what your client has shown in 10 minutes. The lawyer sat back down without another word. Caprio returned his attention to Tyler. "You said earlier that respect is earned, not demanded. Officer Ruiz earned it. You didn't. Tell me, Mr. Grayson, what do you think earns respect?" Tyler hesitated, then forced a grin. "Success." "Success," Caprio repeated. "Measured by what?" "Numbers in a bank account, company shares, or the way you treat people who can't give you anything." Tyler's grin faltered. "Look, I'm not here to debate morality, okay? You asked what happened. I told you. Can we move on?" Caprios didn't move from his face. "You haven't told me what happened. You've told me what you think should have happened, which is that your father's name should have erased your actions. That isn't justice. That's fantasy." A long pause. The courtroom could feel it. The shift. The mask was slipping. Caprio glanced at Officer Ruiz. "Officer, did you fear for your job after those calls?" "Yes, Your Honor," Ruiz admitted. When I saw the Grayson logo on my voicemail, I thought I'd be reassigned. Caprio nodded once. You weren't, because this court doesn't yield to money. It yields to truth. He turned to Tyler. That man showed more restraint in 5 minutes than you've shown in your entire adult life. Tyler looked down at the table. The smirk was gone, his fingers tapped nervously against the wood. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Caprio's voice softened. Your father's company builds systems that promise to improve human lives. Tell me, Mr. Grayson, does your behavior honor that mission? Tyler didn't answer. Then I'll answer for you, Caprio said. It doesn't. The room stayed utterly still. Then the judge leaned back and spoke quietly, almost reflective. Justice doesn't care about your last name, Mr. Grayson. It cares about your next decision, and I'm giving you one more chance to make a better one. He looked to the clerk. We'll resume after recess. When we return, we'll discuss the body cam's aftermath and the consequences of arrogance. Tyler swallowed hard, his voice low. You're making this personal. Caprio's reply came instantly. No, Mr. Grayson, you did. As the courtroom emptied, the camera kept rolling, capturing the unspoken truth in Tyler's expression, the first flicker of fear in a life that had never known limits. For the first time, the CEO's son wasn't controlling the narrative. The law was. When the recess ended, the courtroom filled again with a quiet intensity. Tyler Grayson returned to his seat slower this time, shoulders drawn tighter, the bravado from before dimmed, but not gone. His phone was no longer in sight. Even his lawyer avoided eye contact, as if the weight of what had just played out had shifted the room's gravity. Judge Caprio entered, his expression unreadable, calm as still water, yet carrying the weight off a man who had spent decades separating excuses from accountability. He sat, placed his glasses on the bench, and spoke in the same steady voice that had once silenced senators and soothed crying mothers. Mr. Grayson, he began, I've watched thousands of defendants walk through these doors. Some came broken by poverty, some by loss, and some, like you, by arrogance disguised as confidence. Tell me, how does a young man with every opportunity find himself here, unable to distinguish pride from power? Tyler leaned back, defensive again. You make it sound like I'm some kind of criminal. I didn't hurt anyone. You hurt the principle that holds society together, Caprio said softly. Respect? Tyler scoffed. Respect I's earned, like I said. And you think you've earned it? Caprio asked. Tyler smirked, trying to reclaim control. I've built companies since I was 16. People twice my age work for me. You think respect comes from bowing to rules made for the weak? Caprio didn't react. He just nodded slowly. So by your logic, laws are for those without money or influence. Tyler shrugged. That's how the world works. I'm just honest about it. A faint, tired sigh escaped Caprio's lips. Mr. Grayson, the world works that way because people like you refuse to let it change. Tyler stiffened. For a brief second, his mask cracked, not from guilt, but confusion. No one had ever spoken to him like this. Caprio continued, let me show you something. He motioned to the clerk, who switched the monitor to a news article. A photograph appeared. Richard Grayson, Tyler's father, standing beside Judge Caprio at a charity event years ago. The headline read, Local CEO donates $5 million to Citywide Safe Roads Initiative. Caprio turned the screen toward Tyler. Your father raised funds to prevent accidents, to protect children, to remind this city that innovation without conscience is chaos. Does that sound like the man who raised you to mock officers and threatened them? Tyler looked at the image and said nothing. Caprio's voice dropped lower. I knew your father when he was young. He came to this courtroom once, not as a defendant, but as a witness. He believed in accountability, he said, and I remember his words exactly. Success without empathy is failure wearing a tie. Do you think he'd be proud of you today? Something flickered across Tyler's face, not remorse, but pain. He blinked quickly and muttered, he doesn't care what I do. Caprio tilted his head. Doesn't care or doesn't know how to reach you anymore. The question hit like a quiet hammer. Tyler's voice lowered. He's never around. He's too busy running his empire. So, yeah, maybe I don't care what people like you think because no one who actually matters does. The gallery stirred softly, noting judgment, but recognition. Beneath the arrogance was something smaller, more human. Loneliness dressed in luxury. Caprio leaned back, his voice gentle now. So you lash out. You pretend control is power. But real power, Mr. Grayson, is choosing restraint when your ego screams for attention. Tyler laughed bitterly. Spare me the wisdom. You don't know what it's like to have everyone expect you to be perfect and then treat you like you're still a kid. I do know, Caprio replied quietly. I've seen the children of privilege crumble because no one ever told them no. And I've seen the children of hardship rise because they learned the value of humility. Tyler exhaled sharply, eyes darting around the room. You think I'm scared off it? Caprio smiled faintly. No, I think you're scared of being ordinary. The words hit harder than any gavel. Tyler's shoulders stiffened. His lips parted, but nothing came out. Caprio continued, his tone steady, almost fatherly. You were handed a name that could open any door, but names don't make men. Choices do. You chose to treat the law like a servant. You chose to humiliate a man doing his job. And no, you re here not because you were caught, but because you were seen. Tyler looked up sharply. Seen, yes, Caprio said. Seen for who you truly are when no one's around to protect you. That's what defines character. Not your last name, not your father's empire, but who you are when you think no one's watching. Tyler swallowed hard. I didn't mean for it to go this far. That's the problem with entitlement, Caprio said, leaning forward. It blinds you until the world forces your eyes open. The courtroom was so quiet that even the soft hum of the ceiling fan seemed intrusive. Caprio's voice carried through it like a sermon. You told Officer Ruiz he works for you. You told this court you don't believe in titles, but today you'll learn a new one. Accountability. Tyler's eyes fell to the table. His reflection in the polished wood looked smaller than he remembered, almost unrecognizable. Caprio tapped his gavel once. This isn't the end of your story, Mr. Grayson. But if you keep living like your name is your shield, it soon will be. The question now is whether you listen. Tyler's voice came out quieter than before. And what if I do? Caprio looked straight at him. Then life will do what the law is too kind to. It will humble you. The words lingered, heavy and absolute. Tyler said nothing. His confidence had thinned into silence. The room seemed to exhale with him. The collective weight of arrogance cracking under truth. Caprio folded his hands. I'm ready to deliver sentencing, but this time money won't buy your way out. This sentence will cost something far more valuable. He paused, then added, you wanted to know what power feels like, Mr. Grayson. You're about to find out what it feels like when it's taken away. And with that, he lifted the gavel and brought it down gently. A sound that didn't just mark the next phase of the trial, but the fall of a kingdom built on ego. The courtroom lights felt brighter now, almost uncomfortably so. Tyler Grayson sat still, his confidence drained tolerance. His father's name, his money, his arrogance, all seemed to mean nothing beneath the quiet authority of Judge Frank Caprio. The world he'd walked into thinking he controlled was now the one controlling him. Judge Caprio looked down at his notes for a long moment before speaking. Mr. Grayson, he began, voice calm, but deliberate, this court has reviewed the evidence, the body cam footage, and your own words. I've also reviewed your record, the tickets dismissed, the warnings overlooked, and the doors opened by your father's influence. It's clear you've lived your life believing that laws are suggestions, not boundaries. That ends today. Tyler shifted, a muscle in his jaw tightening. He tried to smirk, but the expression collapsed halfway. So, what? You're going to find me again? Suspend my license. I'll manage. Caprio didn't even blink. You're right, Mr. Grayson. Money will not fix this. The words hung in the air, heavy and electric. Caprio continued, his tone unwavering. You called a police officer a pig. Used your father's name to threaten his job. You demeaned this courtroom. And then, even after watching yourself do it, you justified it with a smile. That tells me this is not a mistake. It's a mindset. Tyler looked up, eyes flashing. You're twisting everything. I was angry. Everyone says stupid things when they're angry. Caprio nodded slightly. That's true, but most people don't say you work for me, pig. Anger may explain what you said, but it doesn't excuse what you meant, because in that moment, Mr. Grayson, you didn't just insult a man, you revealed your belief that power replaces respect. Tyler said nothing. Caprio leaned forward. You claim to build companies. Let me remind you, yachts aren't built anything on arrogance. You can only build on integrity. And today this court will start rebuilding you from the ground up. The room went utterly silent. Tyler's attorney looked up sharply, sensing what was coming. For reckless driving and intimidation of an officer. Caprio said, you are fined $10,000 to be paid not by your father's accounts, but by your own labor. You will perform 200 hours of community service in the city's Department of Public Safety, working alongside the officers you mocked. Tyler's eyes widened. What? You expect me to clean police stations, wash cars? I'm not. Caprio interrupted, his tone firm but composed. You are not special, Mr. Grayson. You are a citizen, and citizens serve their community when they forget that truth. The crowd murmured approvingly. Caprio wasn't finished. Second, your driver's license is suspended for 1 full year. During that time, you'll rely on the same public transportation systems your father's company helped fund, the same systems used by the people you've spent your life looking down on. Tyler's mouth dropped open. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious, Caprio replied. Perhaps humility will travel faster than your Lamborghini. A faint ripple of restrained laughter broke through the gallery. Tyler turned red, his anger rising. You're just trying to humiliate me. Caprio's response was a quiet storm. No, Mr. Grayson. Humiliation is what you inflicted when you used your father's name as a weapon. What I'm giving you is the one thing your father's money called by, accountability. Tyler slammed his palm on the table. You think this will change anything? You'll still be here next week listening to drunks and nobodies while I'll be back in my office signing paychecks. Caprio paused, then spoke so softly the room leaned into hear. You may sign paychecks, Mr. Grayson, but you've yet to earn a single ounce of respect, and until you do, your title is nothing but noise. The silence that followed was suffocating. Caprio then turned to the clerk. There's one more condition. The clerk handed him a document. Caprio glanced at it and continued, as part of your service, you will spend 1 month assisting with our Youth Responsibility Program, a series of talks at local high schools where at-risk teens learn about choices, consequences, and accountability. You will tell them what you told Officer Ruiz word for word. Tyler's expression darkened. You want me to humiliate myself in front of kids? Caprio's eyes did waver. I want you to teach them the cost of arrogance before they make the same mistake. The only thing more powerful than shame is transformation. And I believe even you are capable of that. For a long time, Tyler said nothing. His lawyer whispered something, but Tyler didn't hear it. The weight of Caprio's words had settled too deep. His confidence, once his shield, had become a mirror he couldn't stand to face. Caprio's voice softened now, the steel giving way to compassion. You called this courtroom small, you saw it. We work for you. But today, this room is the only place you'll ever find true power because it's the one place that can strip you of your illusions. Tyler shed lowered, his voice barely a whisper. You really think this will make me different? Caprio leaned forward. No, you will make yourself different if you choose to. The judge signed the order. Your community service begins next Monday. You'll report at 6 a.m. sharp, and for the next 6 months, you'll work alongside those who enforce the very laws you thought you were above. Tyler stared at the papers, his reflection faint in the ink. His voice cracked slightly. And if I refuse? Caprio's gaze didn't waver. Then you'll find yourself in a cell instead of a classroom. Either way, Mr. Grayson, you'll learn discipline. One path teaches it with purpose, the other with regret. A pause, then, for the first time since entering the courtroom, Tyler nodded slowly, quietly, almost like surrender. Caprio gave a single nod in return. Good. Then maybe there's hope for you after all. He raised the gavel, his voice clear and steady. Let the record show that justice has been served not through wealth or wrath, but through the humility that follows truth. The gavel struck once, sharp, final. As Tyler was escorted out, he glanced back at Judge Caprio, not with defiance, but with something new,